Okay, letter 22. This is the last one for this week. My dear Wormwood, so your man is in love, and in the worst kind he could possibly have fallen into, and with a girl who does not even appear on the report you sent me. You may be interested to learn that the little misunderstanding with the secret police which you tried to raise about some unguarded expressions in one of my letters has been tidied over. If you were reckoning on that to secure my good offices, you will find yourself mistaken. You shall pay for that as well as your other blunders. Meanwhile, I enclose a little booklet just issued on the new House of Correction for Incompetent Tempters. It is profusely illustrated, and you will not find a dull page in it. So we've got some conflict going on here between Wormwood and Screwtape. Remember, we had that previous letter that said, like, I've said these things to you, like, I'm not making fun of Slubgob. I don't really mean that the enemy loves people. Don't let anybody else read my letters. All that kind of stuff. So something has happened here, and Wormwood has called the secret police on Screwtape. So we've got some family conflict. I've looked up this girl's dossier, and I'm horrified to what I find. Not only a Christian, but such a Christian. A vile, sneaking, simpering, demure, monosyllabic, mouse-like, watery, insignificant, virginal, bread and butter miss. The little brute. She makes me vomit. She stinks and scalds through the very pages of the dossier. It drives me mad, the way the world has worsened. We'd have had her to the arena in the old days. That's what her sort is made for. Not that she'd do much good there either. A two-faced little cheat, I know the sort, who looks as if she'd faint at the sight of blood, then dies with a smile. A cheat in every way. Looks as if butter would melt in her mouth, and yet has a satirical wit. The sort of creature who'd find me funny. Filthy, insipid little prude, and yet ready to fall into this booby's arms like any other breeding animal. Why doesn't the enemy blast her for it, if he's so moonstruck by virginity, instead of looking on there grinning? He's a hedonist at heart. All those fasts and vigils and stakes and crosses are only a facade, or only like a foam on the seashore. Out at sea, out in his sea, where there is pleasure and more pleasure. He makes no secret of it, and at his right hand are pleasures forevermore. Ugh, I don't think he has the least inkling of that high and austere mystery to which we raise the miserific vision. He's vulgar, Wormwood. He is a bourgeoisie mind. He has filled his world full of pleasures. There are things for humans to do all day long without his minding in the least. Sleeping, washing, eating, drinking, making love, playing, praying, working. Everything has to be twisted before it's of any use to us. We fight under cruel disadvantages. Nothing is naturally on our side. Not that it excuses you. I'll settle with you presently. You've always hated me and been insolent when you dared. Then, of course, he gets to know this woman's family, the whole circle. Could you not see that the very house she lives in is one he ought never to have entered? The whole place reeks of that deadly odor. The very gardener, though he has only been there for 5 years, is beginning to acquire it. Even guests, after a weekend visit, carry some of the smell away with them. The dog and the cat are tainted with it, and the house full of the impenetrable mystery. We are certain it is a matter of the first principles that each member of the family must in some way be making capital out of the others, but we can't find out how. They guard as jealously as the enemy himself the secret of what really lies behind this pretense of disinterested love. The whole house and garden is one vast obscenity. It bears a sickening resemblance to the description one human writer made of heaven, the region where there is only life, and therefore all that is not music is silence. So if you remember a few letters ago, last week's letters, when our patient recommitted his life and he had gone for a walk to the mill and he came back and he had this cloud that was impenetrable. And now we're talking about this odor that's in the woman's house that our patient has fallen in love with. So that's the presence of God is what he's talking about. And he says the people that come leave with it on them. Even the dog and cat have it. The house smells of it. So that's what he's talking about here, is that this woman's a Christian, her family's a Christian, and the presence of God is in their house. Music and silence, how I detest them both. How thankful we should be that ever since our Father entered hell, though longer ago than humans reckoning in light years could express, no square inch of infernal space and no moment of infernal time has been surrendered to either of those abominable forces, but all that has been occupied by noise, the great dynamism, the audible expression of all that is exultant, ruthless, and virile. Noise which alone defends us from silly qualms, despairing scruples, and impossible desires. We will make the whole universe a noise in the end. We've already made great strides in this direction as regards the earth. The melodies and silences of heaven will be shouted down in the end, but I admit we are not yet loud enough or anything like it. Research is in my progress. Meanwhile, you disgusting little, and there's a big dash, and then in italics, it says here the MS, which means manuscript, breaks off and resumed in a different hand. Now it says, in the heat of composition, I find that I have inadvertently allowed myself to assume the form of a large centipede. I am accordingly dictating the rest to my secretary. Now that the transformation is complete, I recognize it as a periodical phenomenon. Some rumor of it has reached the humans, and a distorted account of it appears in the poet Milton, with the ridiculous addition that such changes of shape are a punishment imposed on us by the enemy. A more modern writer, someone with the name like Pshaw, has, however, grasped the truth. Transformation proceeds from within and is a glorious manifestation of that life force which our Father would worship if he worshipped anything but himself. In my present form, I feel more anxious to see you, to unite you to myself in an indissoluble embrace. Signed, Toadpipe, for his abysmal sublimity under Secretary Screwtape. So, in this letter, Screwtape gets so mad that he actually transforms into a centipede. And we see here that there's accounts that God has done this to creatures for punishment, but then that Satan uses it as promotion, basically. And then his secretary finishes the letter, and next week we will see what is going on with Screwtape and Wormwood.